Hello, welcome to Brave Balanced Nutrition. I'm Shay Johnson. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and clinical herbalist specializing in integrative medicine for women. I'm doing a series on herbs for PCOS, and today I'm going to be talking about Vitex. Vitex is a very popular women's herb, and a lot of women with PCOS use Vitex. And so what I want to do in this video today is talk about some of the misunderstandings about how Vitex works and explain the truth about how Vitex works and bust some myths so that you can use this herb correctly and get the results that you want. Okay, so here is the busting of the myth. Unfortunately, Vitex does not boost progesterone. I'm sure you've read that in a lot of places, and this is the misunderstanding that's out there about Vitex. So if Vitex does not directly boost progesterone, then what does it do, and how did it get a reputation as an herb that does boost progesterone? Well, let's talk about that. So how does Vitex work? Well, Vitex works at the pituitary level. So the pituitary is a gland in your brain, and the pituitary communicates with your ovaries and tells your ovaries kind of what to do. And Vitex works directly on this communication. This is what we call the HPO axis, hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. What that means is it's this communication between your brain and your ovaries. And that is where Vitex does its magic, okay? There's a lot of complicated things that are going on there with Vitex, but here are the three main things that it does. One, it improves the communication and fixes disruptions between the brain and the ovaries. Two, it helps to increase luteinizing hormone. And three, it regulates prolactin. And when you bring all these things together, what Vitex does is it encourages ovulation. And in that way, it helps to boost progesterone because the truth is your ovaries make progesterone in response to ovulation. So the way to boost progesterone is to ovulate. Herbs do not boost progesterone. Our strategy with plant-based medicines is not to boost progesterone, but it's to correct imbalances so that the body will function properly and you will ovulate. When you ovulate, you're going to have enough progesterone. That's the way that it works. So if you have a need for immediate progesterone boosting, then Vitex is not going to be the correct strategy for that, okay? You're going to need to look elsewhere, and I'll talk about that in other videos. However, if you have irregular cycles or anovulatory cycles and you are looking to improve your chances of ovulation, then Vitex is for you. The thing to understand, though, is that Vitex works slowly because it is sort of like the root cause herb. It goes directly to the source, correcting the problem, and whenever you are dealing with a root cause resolution, it's going to take longer. So you can expect for it to take 3 to 6 cycles before seeing results with Vitex if you are using it for this purpose. The other thing about Vitex is that it helps with unopposed estrogen because it also works at the receptor level. So you have hormones circulating in your body and they bind to receptors. And when they bind to the receptors, if you have healthy hormone balance, this is going to give you the effects of the hormones. However, if you have imbalanced hormones and you have too many hormones circulating, when they bind to receptors, then you get symptoms of excess hormones. So Vitex works at this receptor level and it helps to inhibit estradiol from binding with receptors. In that way, it helps with unopposed estrogen. And in that way, it also helps to reduce symptoms of low progesterone, because you have the unopposed estrogen because of the low progesterone. Now, some women with PCOS not only have low progesterone, but they also have high estradiol, and then they have pretty significant estrogen dominance. And Vitex can be helpful for that because it helps to buffer the effects of the estradiol. So those are the two primary ways that Vitex works. And if you need one of these things, then Vitex would be indicated for you. If you're not looking to improve ovulation, then Vitex is probably not your best go-to. There's other herbs that might be more appropriate. Now, I want to also say this, okay, that it's really important not to put all of your eggs in one basket. If you do have irregular periods and ovulatory cycles, then I would recommend you don't just rely on Vitex. It's important to have a really strategic herbal plan in place, along with a holistic self-care plan where you're looking at your diet, your mindset, sleep, stress, the whole enchilada, okay, girls, because all of that factors in to restoring healthy periods and ovulation. Now, there are some situations where Vitex may not be appropriate for women with PCOS. So I want to talk about those really quick. The first one is this. If you have elevated LH levels, then Vitex is not for you, because Vitex has shown to increase luteinizing hormone, as I said earlier. So if you have already high LH levels, then this herb is not appropriate for you. Also, Vitex is not appropriate if you're taking fertility medications. There are herbs you can take with fertility medications, such as black cohosh, but not Vitex. Also, Vitex should not be taken all month. It should be taken in the second half of the cycle, because again, the intention here is to support ovulation. That happens in the second half of the cycle. So we take Vitex from like day 14 to day 28. Now, I realize that every woman has a bit of a different cycle, but that's just generally speaking a way to look at it. If you are not cycling regularly and you want to use Vitex, then I would recommend that you start taking Vitex with the full moon. You can take it from the full moon and then for 14 days. If you're not sure when that is, look it up on Google. Really easy to find out. All right, and then lastly, I would say that Vitex is not appropriate for younger women. So if you're helping your daughter, Vitex, as I mentioned earlier, works on the pituitary level by improving the communication between the brain and the ovaries. But for young women who have less than like a 3-year history of menstruation, their communication is just getting going, and the body is trying to establish this communication, and you could actually disrupt it if you interfere too early on. It is not uncommon, nor is it considered irregular, for younger women to bounce around a bit with their cycle and sometimes have anovulatory cycles. Their body's just trying to figure it all out, and you don't want to really disrupt that with Vitex. There are other herbs that you could use that would be less disruptive to the process. All right, well, that's what I have to say today about Vitex. There's a lot more to talk about, so I'm sure I'll be covering Vitex again later. If you like what I'm sharing, subscribe to my channel, visit my website, bravebalancenutrition.com. So I'm Shay Johnson. Thanks for watching and have a blessed day.